Good morning, evening, or afternoon, whichever one's going on for you at this current point in time. You see this crazy freaking mess, but realistically, we are talking about, that's right, wood plug cutters. It's not just about making your holes, whether you're installing doors or cabinets or furniture or anything. You need wood plugs. These are all various failed attempts at wood plugs because we got to talk about this product. But these are wood plugs. Basically, you take a piece of wood and it basically carves out the ability for you to plug them in so that your screws or your fasteners don't show. These are failed results because they, and I'll talk about what it comes with in a second, but failed attempts because this product is pulverizing the items. And again, you can see it just pulverizes the wood instead of getting through. So something that I don't like about them right off the bat is that they are not, this is a black and gold DeWalt screw drill bit. That is not this. But getting this product or even anything remotely, comparable from half-inch material was a pain in the butt, took a lot of mess, and the vacuum is doing work over here to keep this manageable. But it comes with 8 pieces. It comes with 4 pieces that are for tapered and 4 that are for straight. So these are the straight ones. They obviously look like a straight tube. It comes in 1/4 inch, 3/8 inch, 1/2 inch, and 5/8 inch. And just to kind of show you, come on. You say what you want about these old rigid chucks. They really do lock on without that ratcheting motion. But this is the 1/2 inch. We have our 5/8, and then the smaller 3/8 and the 1/4 inch, and then the 1/2 inch is what I started with the tapered, right? So you have ones that are straight and ones that are tapered. Realistically speaking, they don't really taper or go straight. They just kind of break apart, and as you can see, this is kind of the result of it. It says that it's supposed to be used with a drill press. However, it does also say can be used with cordless drills. That's why I bought it, because I recently, as you saw in that other video, I installed some handles, and so I wanted to go back and bring the person plugs for the handles that I installed, because you can't just leave gaping countersunk holes that looks like shit or crap, right? I can't say that word. That's not nice. But you want something that goes in that is a decent finish. You can't just plug that into a hole, right? Turn it over. You can't show that either. You need a nice smooth finish, a nice surface that's going to be your final result. This is all scrap wood, just me trying to use the product. And something that I was also having an issue with is burnout. As you can see, starts smoking, starts heating up. You can start a fire right on your workshop, on your bench top, just using any drill. So definitely speed 1 is doing the trick. Also variable triggers, going slow and really starting it. But even going super slow, immediately it will start to just crush and rip apart that plug instead of carving out around it so that you get the whole plug. In theory, this entire area, this whole capacity, should be able to fill with wood depending on the depth of your material. But I'm just trying to get a 1/2 inch plug, a 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch plug, to fill a 1/2 inch countersunk hole. As long as it's filling the hole right, I don't care if there is a 16th or a 64th 32nd of an inch on the inside near the fastener that's not all the way touching. Don't care. As long as I can take a rubber mallet, tap it in so it's flush, and cut the difference off and sand, that's what I'm looking for as a final result. Again, when you're installing this for people, you want to find the right type of finish, the right color, the right wood grain, so that it's as symmetrical as possible with what you're installing. I know I'm yapping too much, but let me show you how bad this is. Also, really quick side note, if you look at these straight ones, they have no marking as to what size they are. You just kind of have to put them together and see which one's the biggest and the smaller one, while the tapered ones actually have, let me see if I can zoom in action that for you. They actually have the size on them. So this one's the 5/8, and they all have the sizes for the tapers. So in the future, if Rocaris ever sees this, put your sizing on your straight ones as well. Now I understand that some people are going to say, well, why are you using multi-layer material instead of straight lumber or straight timber? I have, trust me, I've used premium pine. I'm using, you know, other pieces of less quality pine, multi-material or multi-layer, scrap wood, you know, even like MDF. Like I promise you, I'm using different types of woods, different materials, because I want to give this tool and any tool that I review a fair fight, right? So just to show you, this is the 1/2 inch. No gimmicks, no games. Everything's gonna stay in frame, because some internet warrior out there is gonna tell me how something's fake or something's nonsense or you're using it wrong. I personally don't have a drill press, nor as a non-woodworking person, I don't really feel the need to get one. So, you know, if you tell me I can use your product with a drill, I'm gonna take your word for it. Locked in place, because if you try to do this freehand, I promise you it will go badly. Starting really slow and it starts to walk, you see? So you really have to make sure all prongs are touching down, and it still walks. So I'm putting my whole body weight on it. You see, it just walks hard as hell. So you have to put your, like, I'm behind the camera, so I can't fully put my weight on it. So let me move this out the way and give you a no attempt at trying to get through material like this. And I'm probably about 25% of the way through. But the issue is, check what happens when I put it into speed 2. And this is why so many people say, screw this product unless you have a drill press. So it borderline catches fire, right? So if I just, right, you look in there, it's super burned out. If that's the case, I promise you, nobody's gonna want a wood plug in their home that you're installing for them if it's all burnt. Plus, on the off chance that it catches a bad angle, it'll break the plug instead of going through the material fully. So, Rocaris, you need to sharpen the hell out of these blades, all right? They're so dull out of the box. Like, you can see the flex in the wood as I'm trying to like push through this. It's breaking. Now you could say, well, obviously it's not the right material for you to make a plug from. And sure, we can go down that reasoning, but this plug from this broken piece, you know, you're gonna have to really sand this thing and really fix this thing up while putting this burnt end inside where nobody's gonna see it. This outside piece, you're gonna have to sit there really scraping at it in order to get it to decent shape. You're gonna need some better sandpaper, because yeah, so it's starting to lighten up in color a little bit. But what I'm talking about is when you pay for something, especially new out of the box, it should be able to give you that product that it's advertising. So this is multi-chip board or multi-layer pressed together. So I'm gonna get some actual wood so you can see that regardless of whether you're using premium pine or not, it's not for the faint of heart in terms of wood. All right, actual wood. Again, you see the grain, see the inside. It's not MDF, none of the knockoff stuff, just straight up wood. See, still walks. So if I put my body weight on it, you see, it really just shreds through the material. The tips are super sharp, but the sides are super dull. So it rips the material and it rips through the wood plug, but it doesn't really serve the purpose that it's supposed to. So same size with the straight cutter, right? Same 1/2 inch size. This is the straight. Go to a different spot. Still walks. See, I'm holding it straight, going super slow. It just rips the plug up instead of the plug being decent. So once it gets fast, you know that it's through. When you pull the plug out, grab yourself a little screwdriver or something to pop the plug out. Bit of a challenge because of the, right? But that's what you get. A semi-decent on one side, pulverized on the other end. So you can still kind of use this side. Again, it looks almost more like cork than actual wood because of how destroyed it is. If the blades were sharper on this, this thing would be noticeably better. So I went in with a 120 grit followed by a 320 grit to finish. But these are the wood plugs, super flush. Again, it's paler, so if you want to take some kind of oil and make everything a little more uniform, but ultimately you want this to be, you know, super smooth to the touch. These wood plugs are, you know, they're, for me, I really don't care because it's me. But if I was installing it for somebody, obviously I would want the 2 grains to be, come on, focus you. I would want the 2 grains to be symmetrical. Obviously painting them would be ideal if you're going to paint the inside of a drawer. If not, paint the 2 plugs as close to the color inside as possible, just so they're a little less obvious. But the Rocaris, you know, wood plug cutters, they're rough. It took a lot of time and effort to get these in and make them. You know, the putting them in and sanding them and getting the right finish is the easy part. But with this particular product, it was a battle and a half just to get plugs that were usable. So I'm really like maybe 70-30 on like don't get them, but they did work technically. So this is the result, but we'll see. So it goes without saying, after giving myself a bunch of patience and time and trial and error, actual wood is your best bet. I was able to get down, but as you can see, very inconsistent. That's why they say use it with a drill press. That way it's super straight. But I was able to make some plugs. They were, you know, mediocre at best, but it's still better than nothing. What I will say is when you're going to use plugs, if you're going to get something like this, you need to have a little bit of wood filler. DAP and other companies make a bunch of wood filler. Try to match the color as much as possible, because there will be spaces around the plug. It's just what happens. So even if you tap it flush as much as possible and you sand everything beautifully, there will be tiny little spaces where you can see around the plug. So you want to fill those in, either with glue that will match the same color or wood filler. But, you know, real wood only. Anything with these pressed plies or multi-level, they will instantly burn out. You know, they will split if you go anywhere close to the edge. So just have a lot of patience, and if it's not for you, from what I've seen, these act exactly like the Milescraft ones. They're just like, people are complaining because they're not sharp enough. Rocaris, if you are looking online to see what people think of your product, I am telling you, you need to make these sharper. See how these burn out? It's because they're too dull. You need to make them sharper. See this? They make pretty decent cuts when you are sitting there at like 50 RPM, 100 RPM, super, super slow. But the thing is, people, don't always want to go slow, or maybe their drills or, tools don't have variable triggers. So do keep that in mind. Some people don't have clamps and vices and stuff to keep their material straight. So for the average Joe Schmo like you and me, it can cause a lot more frustration than it's worth. But it did make it. So let me go over to so I'm going to take you over to the drawer one more time, because I did end up removing the plugs that had a lot more grain, just to do it again to see if I can get a tighter fit with a slightly more matching piece of wood. So when you're not putting a spotlight on the imperfections, obviously this is going to be pretty fine for what most people are going to need. Again, we have sideways running grain. I just tap these in without really looking because I personally don't care. But try to match up the grain laterally or horizontally so that, whoever you're installing these for gets a better finish. But again, I just like wood finish in general, so this is something that really doesn't matter for me. So here's what I mean when I'm talking about imperfections, right? Is that if you look zoom in action, in order for me to get a perfect round shape, I would have to take this out, put in wood filler, sand it, and it might actually get into the material that I'm, connecting into. Same thing with the other one. Even if I'm touching this and it is flush to the touch, you can see that there's a lot of obvious imperfections that would take me having to take probably a 64th of an inch off of this piece in order to make it somewhat more viable. But for what it is, again, if you're not highlighting every imperfection with a light, it's very, very passable for what it is.